Young people are moving to the right, particularly young men, but for Gen Z, this is almost across the board. In this last election, Republicans won 18-year-old white men, white women, men of color, and doubled their support with men under the age of 25. Among young people, this is happening across demographics, which brings us to these balls. This is a graph put out by Media Matters. Of the most popular streamers and podcasters and YouTubers, the red ones lean to the right, the blue ones lean to the left. The size of the circle represents the size of their audience, and you can see the trend. I'm going to try to explain what's going on here in a way that a lot of you are not going to like. Because we have this unspoken rule on the left that when you talk about why people might be moving to the right, you have to express it purely in terms of brainwashing and manipulation and propaganda. You must never acknowledge the idea that maybe these are sentient human beings who are using their free will to make a decision, and maybe they like what they're hearing from this person more than they like what they're hearing from this person. So let us start with the fact that all of this has happened before. I know this because back in the 90s when I was a young man, I would absolutely have been in the audience for one of these red shows. Back in 1998, I probably would have considered myself a South Park Republican. If you're unaware, this show came about in 1997 at the tail end of the Clinton years. Back at that time, there was a backlash against PC culture in the exact same way and in the exact same words as a backlash today against wokeness. And it is on the exact same grounds. The whole premise of the show is we're going to call out BS no matter who is spewing it. So the perception among young men at the time, which would have included me back then, was that you can talk all you want about who actually holds power in society and about the corporations and the churches. But if there are suddenly certain jokes or phrases or terms that I'm not allowed to use anywhere, not at work, not at school, not on social media platforms, then that is where the power is. And that, we said, is what we want to rebel against. And what I'm about to say here is key. It's crucial to all of this. We always perceived ourselves as the common sense middle, not as being at any kind of extreme. The United States is a center-right country. 71% of the population identifies as either moderate or conservative. The number of people who self-identify as being very left-wing is in single digits. Our perception, right or wrong, was that these people down here, this sliver of leftists, calls everyone to the right of them a fascist. Therefore, that word became meaningless. So if their only tool for arguing against us was to just keep calling us that over and over and over again, it was the same as saying nothing. And you can see that playing out here just in the fact that we only have two colors. There are people in the red circles who believe in universal health care and gay marriage, things that would have been far, far left positions when I was that young man. This graph has far-right conspiracy pundits like Candace Owen in the same category as Theo Vaughn. And some of you instantly are going to say, he has her on his show. If you host a person like this, if you platform them, then you are them. But he also has Bernie Sanders, and Timothy Chalamet, and Danny McBride, and Kevin Smith, and John Mulaney, and J.D. Vance, and Donald Trump. Theo Vaughn personally leans to the right, just as most Americans do. That his whole deal and Joe Rogan's whole deal is, I'll talk to anybody and I will have a civil conversation with anybody. I understand the argument from the left that if you have somebody like that on your show and do anything other than scream at them and denounce them every single second, then you are doing them a favor. That you have humanized this person, you have softened their image in the eyes of the audience. I get it, and I participated in it. When I was the executive editor at Cracked, we never had conservative columnists to come on and make the case for Trump. We never did episodes of our podcast where we invited right-wingers on to debate them. I and almost every other outlet like ours believe the same thing, that you should not platform these views. For example, if a scientist agreed to debate a flat earther, you are making flat earth seem like a legitimate position that should be debated. Even if you win that debate, you have helped flat earth get a foothold. We were wrong. This was the result. Outlets that are willing to talk to anyone and that do not police certain language or certain jokes seem more honest and forthcoming and therefore more compelling. My comparison to debating somebody who believes in a flat earth was always wrong, because the people who believe in a flat earth are a microscopic percentage of the population. If you got to a situation where most people believed in a flat earth, then yeah, you do have to address it, you do have to debate it. For example, during the last election cycle, if you brought up the idea that maybe Joe Biden wasn't all there mentally, that on some outlets was treated as flat earth. Until very recently, the only method of countering this was to call every single one of these people and every single person in their audience a fascist. And that just bounces off any member of the audience who has actually listened to the show, and it's just Danny McBride and Theo Vaughn hanging out and having fun for a while. So your criticism winds up having the same effect among young men as this sticker has on an album. When I was a young man, the government started forcing certain albums to carry this sticker. They're specifically targeting heavy metal and certain types of hip hop. And their argument was not that this music is tasteless or harsh, but that it was literally causing violence. And instantly, this sticker became a badge of quality. It meant the album was cool and edgy. We would not buy an album unless it had this sticker on it. Dr. Dre is a billionaire today because of this sticker. And we just never learn, because if you fast forward a few decades and young men are hearing, hey, just the expression of these opinions can cause physical, medical damage to certain people, saying these ideas will literally get people killed. To a young man who listens to these shows and just listens to these people hang out for hours and laugh, it sounds hysterical. When I listened to a song that was about abusing women or committing some sort of horrible crime, I was confident that I could listen to that song as a song, that it would not make me go out and do those things. When the tide started to turn last time, it was when guys like Jon Stewart and Barack Obama came along, who did not come off as hysterical pearl-clutching scolds, but rather they made those positions seem cool. And something like that will happen again. The pendulum always swings back.